a lot of, a couple of decades of their life for this council. They supported it mentally, financially, and they deserve a big hand of applause because really they're the pillars of this organization. This network was set up, as I mentioned, 18 years ago, as a forum for people to meet, discuss business issues, learn about legal developments, tax developments, commercial issues, and it worked out quite successfully. As I said, along the way, people made friendships, people network. Most important thing is people network. I can tell, Sam Dawish was sitting next to me. I already gave him a couple of leads for business. So you need to network and the business is yours. Now clearly, solicitors, accountants, some types of businesses, it's a lot easier to network and get business. Others, you have to make a bigger effort. So the trick is you have to move around before the meeting and after the meeting to mingle with other people, to learn about other businesses and the opportunities, and keep looking at this slideshow and see who you are, who's the target market. So I don't put that as an ancillary objective, but it's one of the objectives. Maybe for us, for me, or the foundation members who've been members for the last 18 years, we, as much as we want to get business, I don't come here for the business. I come here for the friendship, for that family atmosphere. And on that note, we do meet every second month at a family level. We meet actually in the Summerland, and there's typically, we don't discuss business. It's all pure fun and game shows and what have you. So again, welcome everybody. We look forward to your commitment. This year has gone too quick. We're almost mid-November now. There's one more meeting, and the next meeting it'll be hosted by our foundation member Sam Hab at his premises. Sam, the paving man, and we thank you very much, Sam, for the generosity that you've offered for this. So, in view of what's happening in Lebanon and Palestine, we will not be having a Christmas party with dancing, and we have to respect that side of our life, what's happening. So December will be the last meeting. As I said, it'll be at the premise of Sam, the paving man, and there'll be from Joe Wazzi a lot of information on the process and how you book it and where the venue will be. January there will not be a meeting, and then February will be our annual general meeting. So there'll be elections for a president and 9 other members of the board. So again, thank you for a great year. It's been an eventful year. We started being positive, then we ended up with wars and problems and even economic problems and financial problems. I'm sure many of you here are suffering from cash flow and high interest rates. We'll go through it. We'll win it, and hopefully I'm looking forward to a more successful 2025 and a more membership base in 2025. Again, thank you for your commitment and thank you for your presence. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. President. Okay, so now time for the reason why we all come down here today is definitely not to hear me speak, but it's definitely to hear from our guest speaker, and that is Miss Katy Hannouch from the Western Sydney Airport International, General Manager of Community Engagement and Social Impact. She's here to talk about the new Western Sydney Airport. This is a project that we all voted for once upon a time. If not, you definitely did pay for it. So let's hear what's happening. Thank you. The accountant got it. He knows where your tax dollars are going. So it's actually great to hear exactly what's going on in the development. We hear snippets in the news, and finally get to have a bit of an in-depth view as to what's actually going on. And please make Katy welcome to the stage.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for that very warm welcome. It's an absolute delight to be here with you tonight to share our story of what's happening at Western Sydney International Airport. Now, a disclaimer, I don't have my laptop in front of me, so I'm going to be looking at the screen and taking you through the presentation. It will run for about 20 minutes, and what it's really designed to do is just give you a very top-line view of what's happening out at the airport site today. We are currently under construction, and so I will talk through the progress that we're making, how we're developing the airport, and then more importantly, what's to come. So welcome the questions after the presentation as well. But of course, I would like to start by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land in which we are building Western Sydney International Airport, and that's the Darug people of the Gadigal clan, and pay my respects to elders past, present, emerging, and extend that to anyone in the room who identifies as Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander. So I think for us who come from Western Sydney, this stats here that you see up on screen, they don't really come as much of a surprise. I'm a proud Western Sydney girl, have lived there and I'm still there, raising a family there and working Western Sydney. So the diversity is definitely something that we embody in the plans in terms of how we approach the work that we're doing, but also recognising the opportunity that this is creating for such a diverse community, and more importantly, as we start to fly from Western Sydney International, unlocking that friends and tourism industry right on the doorstep of such a diverse and beautiful community. So in terms of Western Sydney International Airport, why are we building a second airport? So George alluded to the fact that this decision was made quite some time ago under many different governments, but the commitment and the support is still there today. And so why a second airport is because Sydney is currently constrained. So there is aviation, the capacity from an aviation perspective is not yet realised, and I think introducing a second airport certainly will lead to a lot of economic growth, and that's definitely the mandate behind what we're doing here. I'll touch on very quickly, so we do have an airport that will be opened in late 2026, and that will welcome domestic, international and freight operators 24/7. Why 24/7? It's quite unusual for a major city such as Sydney, which is the global gateway into Australia, to not have a 24-hour airport. So 24-hour airports are quite common right around the world. So for Sydney to have a curfewed airport is quite out of step. And so with that comes some restriction in terms of agribusiness and cargo facilities, and restrictions to passenger flights as well. So we get a lot of questions, are you Western Sydney Airport, are you Western Sydney International? Our full name is Western Sydney International Nancy Bird Walton Airport, but we will operate as Western Sydney International. Now it's really important for us to stop and pause and recognise Nancy Bird Walton, who is our namesake of the airport. She was recognised as one of the youngest commercial pilots and actually founded an existing forum which is still being run today, and that is the Australian Women Pilots Association. She had a pioneering spirit. At the age of 19, she obtained her commercial pilot licence and was flying through outback without navigation systems that we have today, and used landmarks as her wayfinding through regional and rural communities. So we really try and embody that persona that she brings, and that innovation and that spirit into the work and the culture in terms of once we turn on and activate our airport precinct. So where are we as an airport? So we mentioned before, we're under construction at the moment. So we have been in early construction for about 7 years now. So early earthwork started in about 2017, and that was getting the site ready. The site is 1,780 hectares, which is double Sydney Airport, or 3 times the size of Sydney Olympic Park. So that just gives you the scale in terms of the land in which we are building Western Sydney International. Progressing through that timeline that you can see up on screen, we're making amazing progress around the construction site. And, sorry, go back. Where we are today, hopefully you can see it, but obviously towards the back end of 2024, Major 1 construction, which is our terminal, our runway, and landside packages, will be largely completed and handed back to us in the next couple of months, which is a really exciting milestone for us as we start to get a watertight facility and we go into interior fit out and design. Progressing through, once we kind of reach March to April next year, we will then transition into what we call ORAT, or operational readiness. And that phase is really designed for us to test the system before we go live. So there's it's a brand new airport, so many brand new systems being introduced for the first time. So technology and third-party suppliers as well. So the goal here is to really break the system so we know where it can happen and how to rectify it and ensure it doesn't happen once we're a live airport. So we will go through about a 12 to 18 month rigorous testing program before we open in late 2026, and that's still currently on track. In terms of how we are structured, so we operate as Western Sydney Airport. We're a government business enterprise. and our shareholding ministers are the Department of Infrastructure and Department of Finance. So we are the delivery partner, actually constructing and building the airport, and we rely on Tier 1 construction companies to help us do that. So you can see up on slide who those key partners are. So Acciona, CPB, Multiplex, DXE, Aerowest joint venture with Seymour White and BMD. As we move into the further development, which is our business precinct, our cargo precinct, we've also onboarded additional partners there, being Charter Hall. So what you can see here is, a really good indication of how strong we are performing from a construction perspective. So major earthworks, we wrap that up, sitting there at 100% completion. And to put that into context, where I said it's 3 times the size of Sydney Olympic Park, our site, we had 26 million cubic metres of earth which was moved across our site. The largest earth-moving project in Australia. Very exciting for people who were working on there. We had over 300 heavy machines on site, and if you ever had the opportunity, we'd get people sitting at our experience centre and just watching the truck movements. It was really quite phenomenal. So one of the largest infrastructure builds, really importantly, we didn't move any material off our site either. So all of that 26 million cubic metres of earth was actually a cut and fill job. So relocated from the peak of our site to the lowest point to create a nice flat surface for us. So if you're familiar with Badgerys Creek, you'll understand the landscape. It was trees and it was quite hilly. So terminal, we're currently sitting at 88%, as I mentioned, so really on track to wrap that up early next year into March. Airside sitting there at just over 91% and landside sitting there at 83%. I did have a question earlier, which is how's your cargo going? We don't really see a lot happening in that space. So that construction only recently commenced and we're currently just sitting shy of 10%, but still on track to also open in 2026 as well. Now I do have a short video, there are a couple of videos, because what I wanted to be able to do was not just hear from me, but actually see drone footage from the construction site and a few other key programs that we've launched. What that does give you is a bird's eye view of exactly what the construction is happening out there. So when we do open in 2026, what you're seeing up on screen now is what we call our airport site layout. And so when we open, we have the capacity in our stage 1 design to actually accommodate 10 million annual passengers per year, and that's through our airport. Our airport is built to grow with demand. So what you will see when demand is realised, or roughly about 2050, 2060 timeframe, is when we will have our full-phase developed airport, as you can see up on that map there. That's when we move to almost 82 million passengers per year through our airport, which is double what Sydney can do today. So we will, over time, become the biggest gateway into Australia through the Western Sydney International. So what you can see there, so in the first one, we've got 1 runway, which is what we're opening with in 2026, with 1 terminal building. Phase 1 of our business precinct, which is 20 hectares, and I'll touch on that in a couple more slides, as well as our cargo precinct. And then into this phase here, you've got the fully developed business precinct, so all 200 hectares, which is the size of Parramatta CBD. You've got 2 runways and the combination of 4 terminal buildings for what would be our full developed airport. So I spoke about earlier, we're in this really interesting phase now where we're moving from major construction, which is the phase we've been in for several years now, and we're going into this operational readiness, so our ORAT. So last month, so on the 2nd of October, we actually had our first test flight, and that test flight landed on our runway successfully to test the aeronautical lighting system. So here's a short clip to see that in action.